how we can get the equilibrium position in the short run. As you know that the equilibrium level of aggregate output and the price level will occur at a point where the quantity of aggregate output demanded equals the quantity of aggregate output supplied. This is the aggregate demand curve AD, and is the aggregate supply curve. When the aggregate demand and aggregate supply curve both touches each other at a point, suppose point E. This point E is known as the equilibrium point, and Y star is the equilibrium output level, and P star is the equilibrium price level. So very simply we can say that in the short run equilibrium occurs at point E at the intersection of the aggregate demand curve AD and the aggregate supply curve AS. But however, in the context of the aggregate demand and aggregate supply analysis, there are two types of equilibrium. One is known as the short run equilibrium and the second one is known as the long run equilibrium. Now we are discussing equilibrium in the short run. This figure illustrates an equilibrium in the short run in which the quantity of aggregate output demanded equals the quantity of output supplied. Simply, the aggregate demand curve and the aggregate supply curve touches each other at point E. So the equilibrium level of output equals Y star, and P star is actually known as the equilibrium price level, and point E is known as the equilibrium point. In the previous chapter, we talked about that equilibrium is a useful concept only if there is a tendency for the economy to head toward it. What happens when we are at a price level above the equilibrium price? For example, look at here, P double dash. Suppose if we are here and you know that this price level is above the equilibrium price level. So at point P dash, look at here, aggregate demand is at point A and aggregate supply is at point D. So can you see the difference between A and D? If P double dash is greater than P star, so we can say that the quantity of aggregate output supplied at point D is greater than the quantity of aggregate output demanded at point A. We can say that we have an excess supply. The difference represents an excess supply because people want to sell more goods and services than others want to buy. It means that business firms want to sell more units of output, but consumers are willing to buy less amount of output. It means that here we have a condition of excess supply. So what will happen? The prices of goods and services will fall and the aggregate price level will drop. So we will move from price P double dash to P star. So the aggregate price level will fall. This decline in the price level will continue until it has reached its equilibrium level of P dash at point E. So this fall in the aggregate price level will continue until we reach here to P star R from point A and D to point E. Now look at the reverse case. If suppose we are here, if the price is below the equilibrium price, so we are here at point C and point B. At point C, this is the aggregate supply, and at point B, this is the aggregate demand. Look at the difference between, look at the area between point C and point B in the aggregate demand and aggregate supply position. Suppose when the price level is below the equilibrium price level, for example, P dash. Here, the quantity of output demanded is greater than the quantity of output supply. Look at this is the quantity of aggregate demand, point B. So at price P dash, the quantity of aggregate demand is greater than the quantity of aggregate supply. So we can say that here we have the condition of excess demand. What will happen? The price level will rise because people want to buy more goods than other want to sell. So this rise in the price level will continue until it has again reach its equilibrium level of P star. So again the economy will be in equilibrium at point A if the excess demand disappears in the market.